Yo, what's up, Red Legion? Thank you so much for joining. Wait, who's the Red Legion? You guys, watching my very first YouTube video. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about a 2021 beginner's guide to Raid Shadow Legends. This is the part where I want the intro to come in. Okay? I guess it doesn't work that way when you edit your own. Videos. Okay, jokes and intro aside, let's get into it. This is not only the first video on my channel itself, but this is going to be the first video of what I'm planning on as a multi-part series to basically what I think you need to know as a beginner in 2021 for Raid Shadow Legends. So the video series is going to include today's video talking about which champion you should choose as far as a recommendation that I'll give you. And then also, if you've already chosen your champion, kind of a summary of the strengths of each one, because one harsh reality of this game that the sooner you realize, the better, is you're going to see all kinds of information on the internet. People are going to throw champion tier lists, everything at you. And the reality of it is each individual person is going to get different value from different champions. You're going to get different champions than hundreds of other people, and your account might be missing one specific thing that can take somebody that most people would consider a low tier champion, and it's actually really valuable to your account. So this series is going to be geared towards getting you to be able to think independently for yourself and your account, and what your account needs, and how you progress through dungeons, and what exactly you should be working on, and when and why. These aren't always exact sciences that, you know, a YouTube video can tell you exactly what to do. There's a lot of factors that go into it that can change very drastically per account and per what you get, and just everything from artifacts and champions included. So it's crazy. There's a lot to get into. So before we get started, I'll go ahead and plug my Twitch channel. I don't have any kind of sponsorships or anything like that, but I do stream Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time over on Twitch. Link in the description below to my Twitch channel, and feel free to check it out. I'd love to see you over there. Any kind of support, you know, it goes miles. So I really appreciate it. And also, if you have any questions or anything like that you want an immediate answer, or, you know, you want to chat and discuss things more of like a, you know, live interaction rather than just the YouTube comment section, go ahead and catch me over there. I will be reading all the YouTube comments, and I will be responding to each one that, you know, warrants a question that needs to be answered or anything like that. And I'm also very going to be intently looking for criticism, because this is my first video, and then also suggestions for anything that's going to be either added to this beginner series that, you know, I don't mention that you think should be covered or anything like that. So go ahead and just let me know what you think. And that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So starting with starter champions, there's two types of people. Usually people who are very indecisive, and chances are you're looking to YouTube first to help you decide what you want. And then there's the people who are spontaneous, who are going to pick whatever they want regardless of what somebody on YouTube tells them. With that being said, no matter which type of person you are, I'm going to go over the strengths of each starter, and then from there I'm going to give you a recommendation. Alright, so let's go ahead and dig into Elhain. The images that you see on the side of her little video I have going on the screen for you guys is from Ayumilove.net. Now, I mentioned before, I'm going to give you the resources so that you can make decisions for yourself. Ayumilove gives you kind of champion overview, shows you everything as far as their rating in each area of the game. And then it also gives you a summary of their skills and an aura if that champion has it. All the starter champions have the same aura, 15% HP in all battles, okay? So, with that being said, another very special thing that not a lot of people know about is sometimes Ayumilove's champion information has multiplier information, okay? So in the game, you're going to have champions that are based on attack, you're going to have champions that are based on defense, HP, all kinds of stuff. So those when it says that in a champion's information, when their damage is based on something, it is taking that number on their stats and multiplying it by something. Ayumilove doesn't always have this information, but if you want to know, just go ahead and check and see if they have it. Now, all the starter champions, they have the multipliers, okay? So, spoiler alert, Kael has the best multiplier. So he's going to hit the hardest, but I'm still going to talk about the benefits of every other champion as well. So looking at Elhain's skills, her first one, her auto attack that she defaults to without anything on cooldown or anything like that, is attacks one enemy and places an extra hit if this attack is critical. So right off the bat, you know you're going to want to build her for critical rate. It's a multi-hitter. Multi-hit attacks in this game are very good for a dungeon called Fire Knight. He puts up a shield. This shield has 10 ticks on it, and if you do 1 damage or if you do 1,000,000 damage, you take 1 point off of this guy's shield. Then you can damage him. While his shield's up, you can't do very much. You can't land debuffs. You can't do hardly anything. Even some of the hardest hitting champions in the game, it's going to do a little itty bitty sliver when he's got the shield up. So multi-hitters are crucial for that dungeon. Looking at her kit, her auto attack, her second attack, and her third attack all hit twice. So no matter what she's doing, no matter if something's on cooldown or anything like that, she's going to be doing more than just 1 tick against that shield. That's pretty much all she brings to the table for Fire Knight. That's probably why Ayumilove only gave her a 3-star rating. She doesn't have any kind of turn meter control, any buffs for your team, nothing. She buffs herself, which is all fine and dandy, but there's plenty of champions out there that buff your whole team, and ideally that's what you're shooting for. There's an artifact set in the game called the stun set. It takes 4 pieces, so that requires you to farm 4 individual pieces that are good. That makes it a little bit more difficult than just a 2-piece set, but if you're lucky enough to get a good stun set, then you slap that on her, and as you can see by the little graphic, that gives her an 18% chance per hit to apply a stun debuff. It's per hit. It's absolutely amazing. Both her lightning arrow and her Valley of Death are AoEs. So that's in dungeons, 5 different people. If you're in Spider's Den, that could be up to 10 different spiders that you have an 18% chance to stun all across the board. It's absolutely amazing. Sunset is wonderful. If you can get it, that's great. And the dungeon that I mentioned, Fire Knight, is where you get this set. So she might help you farm the stun set. So that's something that you can look forward to if you're planning on keeping her and building her until you get somebody better. Okay, so let's talk about Galek next. The only thing special about him that kind of puts him apart from the rest is Cursed Blade. Cursed Blade attacks 4 times at random. 30% chance of placing a 30% decreased defense debuff, for 2 turns. Has a 30% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns if the target has more than 2 debuffs. He's going to need to rely on somebody else for that. But if you can get that, then that's definitely amazing. The 60% decreased defense is one of the most important debuffs in the game. However, later on in the guide, I'm going to talk to you guys about an AoE debuffer that does decrease defense on a 100% chance, much more reliable than 4 times at random. He can kind of fill the same role that I was talking about with Elhain if you slap him in some stun set. But the 4 times at random isn't anywhere near as strong as attacking all enemies with Elhain. That's going to reliably hit all of them every single time, versus 4 times at random. The only time that that's reliable is when there's only one person. So Fire Knight, for example. At the very end, you make it through 2 waves of 5 enemies, you fight the boss, and the boss is all by himself. So 4 times at random is going to hit that boss 4 times. 4 ticks off the shield. That's amazing. That's why he's getting a 5-star rating on Ayumilove instead of Elhain's 3-star. Okay, so Athel is next, but in order to point out what is special about her, we're going to get sidetracked from starter champions and we're going to talk about masteries for a little bit. So each champion, let me turn my camera off because it actually blocks this. Each champion can be built with 2 trees of these masteries. So if you're looking at a champion, you have the artifacts that they wear, you have the skills, which is just the info of the skills, just like what you see on Ayumilove. And then on masteries, you grind these scrolls in a dungeon called the Minotaur Dungeon. In there, you get these scrolls, and then you buy these little talent trees. You move all the way down, and you pick a tier 6 mastery at the very, very end of a build, and that's pretty much what makes that champion the strongest. It's one of the most important things to get, and as far as progression goes for your character, very, very important. There's all kinds of different builds that you can do for different things, but typically there's one thing that is best for a champion. This right here, Giant Slayer, has a 30% chance of inflicting bonus damage when attacking. Bonus damage is equal to 7.5% of the target's max HP, and it's 3% of the target's max HP if it's a boss. Bonus damage can occur on each hit of the skill, but does not count as an extra hit. So, 3-hit champions like Athel benefit so much from Giant Slayer. It's actually ridiculous. If you have somebody that doesn't hit 3 times, then War Master is another option that you can do that's typically pretty good. So Athel, what makes her special, like I said, is that 3-hit ability. It's really, really just amazing for clan boss. So one of the builds that you always try to strive for in clan boss is putting all of your champions in lifesteal gear. It's a 4-piece set, kind of difficult to farm compared to 2-piece sets, but if you're lucky enough to get a good lifesteal set, then they heal for 1% of their damage. When you're hitting a clan boss or any kind of dungeon boss that has a lot of HP, they're going to have way more HP than you. And that percent-based hit that your champion is doing against that boss is probably going to be a full heal, just in one proc of that. Athel can proc that 3 different times. Technically, it's not going to happen very often because it's a 30% chance, but the potential is still there, and you're almost guaranteed to at least get one of those hits off. So it's very, very reliable damage against the clan boss, and also if you're lucky enough to have lifesteal, then it's a heal as well. On top of that, she has a 75%, but when you book and level up the skill all the way, it books up to 100% chance to do a 25% weaken debuff. Very, very unique as far as the starters are concerned, and it's a straight up 25% increased damage. It's wonderful. Very, very good to pair with decreased defense from somebody else, because if you put those two things together, you're doing even more damage. Wonderful, wonderful. Divine Blades, same thing as the other ones, exact same thing except for the multiplier. Has an extra 15% chance to crit, so 85% critical rate. It's going to be perfect across the board for all the starter champions. But her higher blessing is what kind of puts her apart from the other ones and adds a little bit of a special feel to this champion. Places a 25% increased attack buff on this champion for 2 turns. Places a 30% increased defense buff on this champion for 2 turns if her current HP is less than 50. Pretty nice, self-sustain, and on top of that, she gets an extra turn. So, if she's on auto, she's going to use this, buff herself, and then she's going to do her AoE. In Arena, you may or may not want to do that. You might want to get the attack buff from somebody else, and then do the AoE. But we'll get to that whenever we talk about Arena. But if you don't have an attack buff champion, then she's pretty self-sufficient. She buffs herself in defensive and offensive ways, which is really good. Like I said though earlier, you're looking for an AoE buff, somebody who can buff your entire team, but it's your starter champion. You don't have champions yet. You don't have access to these kinds of things. So solo by herself, she's a really solid champion. As you can see, all the dungeons, she's got a 5-star rating. It's because of that. It's because of that extra turn. It's because of that attack buff and the AoE. It's got a decent multiplier. Still not quite as good as Kael's. It's only 4.1, but still, it's one of the higher ones. It's higher than Elhain's, as an example. So there's really nothing wrong with her. One of the points that I want to drive home, though, talking about each one of these, is we're about to talk about Kael, which hands down is my easiest recommendation. But I hope as I've talked through these, you can kind of see where if you've already started the game and, you know, you might have a friend saying, oh man, you should have picked Kael. You need to restart. You need to re-roll your account. You need to start over. I mean, you can, but you and only you are going to be able to evaluate your time that you've put in. And if you've already spent money on the game, you know what I mean? Only you can make that decision. I'm just here to give you the information. And like I said, give you the resources so that you can make your own decision. Each champion has their own little spot that they can fill. They all pretty much, the main thing that they're used for, right off the bat as your starter champion is you're going to 6-star them, and they are going to be your campaign farmer. In a campaign farmer, you want an AoE so that you can hit the wave and kill everybody in one hit, move on to the next one, and rinse and repeat. So these ones, each one that I've covered so far have a cooldown on their AoE ability. We're gonna get to Kael in a minute, but he has a turn meter thing that he does as well. That if he kills somebody, it's going to give him turn meter back. But Athel, I mean, she's got a weakened debuff. That's what sets her apart. Higher blessing. It's a really good extra turn buff, everything like that. She's got all kinds of stuff going on for her. Last but certainly not least is Kael. He's going to be the one that I recommend you pick if you haven't picked one yet. But like I said earlier, you know, you don't have to listen to a YouTuber. You can pick whoever you want. This is just my personal recommendation. Let me crack into why. So Disintegrate attacks 4 times at random. What it's not saying on this thing is each of those 4 times that it hits something has a chance to do the second sentence of the skill. Has a 40% chance of placing a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns. On Clan Boss, it is almost mandatory to have a poisoner, especially for the early game. Poison does percent-based damage, so you land the debuff. If they have a turn of poison on them, whenever that enemy goes, they take poison damage at the beginning of their turn. On Clan Boss, that's going to be like 60,000 damage. If you have poison sensitivity from another champion in the game, Frozen Banshee as an example, that will do even more damage. So it's massive percent-based damage. That's one of the main reasons why Kael is just far and above a better choice than all the other champions. His Acid Rain, once again, 15% extra chance to crit, but it fills the turn meter of this champion by 25% for each target killed. So, Athel, she has an extra turn given to her on her 3rd ability. This right here, if you kill 4 things in a wave of a dungeon or anything like that, then that's going to just straight up give him another turn. He's going to kill them, it's going to fill his turn meter, and then if it completely fills it, you know, if it's not just 75% or anything like that, then his turn is going to be, you know, ready to go as soon as it happens. Turn meter is one of the strongest things in the game. Turn meter manipulation is absolutely amazing. The only time that it's something that you absolutely want to stray away from is when you're on a speed-tuned clan boss team. But that's something that's definitely not going to be anything related to a beginner's guide. That's something way later. If you're interested in that, quick YouTube search, speed tuning for clan boss is something that you'll eventually strive to do. Not something that we're going to talk about in this video, though. Also, on his auto attack, he has an 80% chance to put the weak version of poison. There's a 2.5% version, and then there's a 5% version. Not bad, not amazing, but I mean, poison on his auto attack, that's something that you'll never really argue with. For that reason, and his multiplier, 4.65, is the highest out of all of them. He's going to require the least amount of gear as far as damage is concerned. However, one caveat to that is on Elhain, you're not really doing anything with debuffs. So you're just building crit rate, crit damage, and attack. That's all you really care about. But for these poison debuffs are on Kael's skills. you have to have the accuracy to land it. So we've talked about debuffs already just a little bit with weaken on Athel and everything like that. But basically the game takes your champion's accuracy and it pits it against the enemy's resistance. I'm not exactly sure on the math. I'm sure it's out there somewhere on the internet, but it pits them against each other. I don't know if they're subtracted, but you have to have enough accuracy versus their resistance in order to actually have anything in the game that affects your opponent other than damage occur. So if you're doing something that steals turn meter, if you're doing something that lands a debuff, if you're doing something that removes a buff, anything that alters something about your opponent other than straight up doing damage, it needs to have accuracy in order for it to land. So a typical number that gets thrown around a lot is if you're looking at a dungeon and you have the level, you take that and you multiply it by 10, and that's how much accuracy you need. So ultimate end goal of the game is to do level 20 of all dungeons. You multiply that by 10 and you're looking for 200 accuracy. For higher levels of the clan boss, eventually, not exactly as a new player, but eventually you're going to be looking for at least 220, 30, somewhere around there, accuracy to land these poisons against the clan boss. So it comes with a little bit of extra effort that you have to put in order to make Kael shine. It's not quite as easy to build, but it's not crazy hard either. It's just something that you have to keep in mind when you go looking for artifacts for your champions. But the poison is just absolutely massive. I can't stress it enough for clan boss. As you can see at the end of this Dragon 20 run, you can see that Kael excels at damage. Now there's two reasons for this. He's got the highest multiplier out of the starter champions, so he does a lot of AoE damage against the 2 waves that precede the dragon, and then those poisons absolutely nuke the dragon's pink shield that he does. Okay, so to summarize my opinion, if I was to rank these things from the weakest to the strongest, it would have to go Elhain, Galek, Athel, and then Kael. The reason for that is Elhain's got the weakest multipliers and she needs a stun set in order to be really separated from the rest of the group. Galek's multiplier is the second highest and he's the only one who has access to a 4-hitter for Fire Knight. He's got access to a debuff, but it's usually provided by somebody else who's farmable in the campaign, and they do it on an AoE basis. Athel, her auto attack is just excellent. It's got weaken on it, which is an excellent debuff. That debuff is available in the game on an AoE basis, but that's usually only for legendary champions. So unlike Galek's debuff, it's not really redundant. It's something that is unique that she brings to the table. Kael's multipliers are the hardest hitting, and he's got a reliable poison, which is just absolutely amazing for boss damage, clan boss, and his wave clear is just far better. His multiplier makes it to where he can clear waves much easier with less gear than the other champions, just because of his multiplier. And then if you get to a point to where you grind out enough gear to have accuracy, he just gets even better. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're here at the end, you're absolutely legendary in my eyes. Please let me know what you thought of the video and comment down below who you ended up with as a starter champ. I started with Elhain myself. And also, special shout out to any of my Twitch audience who've made it this far as well. See you guys in the next video where I discuss what to do in the early stages of the game with your new starter champ.